More than 15,000 scientists are sounding an alarm about climate change. They call it a warning to humanity. It comes exactly 25 years after.
There's a frantic effort underway tonight to find survivors.
It was the warmest year in the Earth's recorded history, and it's only getting hotter.
The climate warming, the one thing that we're most clear about is you'll have more cold events and more heat events. So this is one that is most significant.
The world is experiencing a perfect storm, climate change and rising population.
I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day.
We are facing problems that transcend nations.
More than 1,200 people are believed to have died.
Experts say it's through water that most of us will feel the effects of climate change first.
Nobody can say when the next flood will be, but everybody knows the waters will rise once more.
But for many, the water crisis has already begun.
The most important things that we know 50 years from now will be things we had no idea about right now. Nature continues to surprise us in ways we could never have expected. Nature is much more imaginative than the human imagination is. And in order to make progress, we keep having to question nature, explore it, because it will yield those surprises that will change not just our picture of ourselves, but the way we carry out our lives.
We've essentially designed civilization to be super sensitive to climate change.
Our house is on fire. I am here to say our house is on fire.
It is worse than expected.
From an extraterrestrial perspective, our global civilization is clearly on the edge of failure. And the most important task it faces, preserving the lives and well-being of its citizens and the future habitability of the planet.
I have this incredible suffering from people not listening.
The evidence is that unless immediate action is taken, this crisis has grave impacts for us all.
I want you to act as if you would in a crisis. I want you to act as if the house was on fire, because it is.
Nothing stays the same on this planet. Everything changes. We are one of the asteroids hitting the planet. We are something that is coming on fast and changing landscapes on a huge scale around the planet, changing chemical balances in the atmosphere and the ocean. So we are one of those things that is altering this planet.
And if you are a young millennial about to start a family, if you're a parent here or a grandparent, I want you to listen to this. Our scientists now tell us that we are in the 6th extinction event of life on Earth. It doesn't even make the headlines. This is the most dramatic story the human family has ever faced.
It's just a mind-boggling situation to be in. For the first time, we have to seriously consider the risk of destabilizing the entire planet. Per million, we're starting to see the impacts of being in the middle of the danger zone in the climate boundary, in terms of rising frequency of droughts, and heat waves, and floods.
Well, maybe the most important question to ask about humans, about humanity, is if we are so smart, why are we doing so many stupid things? We now have the power to create new life forms, but also to destroy much of life on Earth, including ourselves.
Is a crime against humanity of unimaginable proportions. 10,000 entire species are wiped out every year because of the actions of one. If any other organism did this, a biologist would call them a virus.
We're facing a crisis, and one that has consequences for us all.
Our universe is a place of infinite variety. 2 trillion galaxies. Billions and billions of stars. And countless planets. Worlds beyond imagination. After all, they are the biggest questions. How did the universe come to be? Why are we here? And how will it all end?
Let me tell you a story. The first story my father told me, and the first story that I told each of you. In the beginning, there was nothing. Nothing but the silence of an infinite darkness. But the breath of the Creator fluttered against the face of the void, whispering, "Let there be light." And light was. And it was good. The first day. And then the formless life began to take on substance and shape. The second day. And our world was born. A beautiful, fragile home. And a great warming light nurtured its days. And a lesser light ruled the nights. And there was evening and morning. Another day. And the waters of the world gathered together. And in their midst emerged dry land. Another day passed. And the ground put forth the growing things, a thick blanket of green stretching across all creation. And the waters, too, teemed with life. Great creatures of the deep that are no more. Vast multitudes of fish, some of which may still swim beneath these seas. And soon, the sky was streaming with birds. And there was evening, and there was morning, a fifth day. Now the whole world was full of living beings. Everything that creeps, everything that crawls, and every beast that walks upon the ground. And it was good. It was all good. There was light and air and water and soil, all clean and unspoiled. There were plants and fish and fowl and beast, each after their own kind, all part of the greater whole, all in their place, and all was in balance. It was paradise, the jewel in the Creator's palm. And the Creator made man, and by his side woman, father and mother of us all. He gave them a choice. Follow the temptation of darkness, or hold on to the blessing of light. They ate from the forbidden fruit. Their innocence was extinguished. And so for the 10 generations since Adam, sin has walked within us. Brother against brother, nation against nation, man against creation. We murdered each other. We broke the world. We did this. Everything that was beautiful. Everything that was good. We shattered.
The universe is so vast, so incomprehensible, so terrifying, that I think it's quite natural for us to choose to live out our lives completely oblivious to it.
Every landscape in the world is full of exact and beautiful adaptations by which an animal fits into its environment like one cogwheel into another.
We are amazingly lucky to be here, privileged, and we must not waste that privilege. We live on a planet that is all but perfect for our kind of life. Not too warm and not too cold, basking in kindly sunshine, softly watered, a gently spinning green and gold harvest festival of a planet. Compared with most planets, this is paradise, and parts of Earth are still paradise by any standards.
I like to call it the web of life, all the strands forming a beautiful pattern.
20,000 years ago, humankind consisted of less than 1 million hunter-gatherers across the globe. We lived within the resources on offer, in balance with nature, a strategy that could theoretically last forever. But it wasn't an easy life. Nature determined our survival. We used our unique minds to challenge that reality. We learnt how to tame the wild, get more from the environment. The temperature stabilized just 10,000 years ago.
You can just see from the graph that this is a remarkable, not to say almost miraculously stable interglacial period.
Geologists have given this period of stability its own special name. It's called the Holocene.
The Holocene is remarkable. It is a warm period where the planet's global mean temperature varies between just plus minus 1 degree Celsius during the entire period.
Plus minus 1. It's plus minus 1 degree Celsius.
This is what established the modern world as we know it.
The Holocene's stable temperatures gave us a stable planet. Sea levels stabilized. For the first time, we had predictable seasons and reliable weather. This stability was fundamental. For the first time, civilization was possible, and humanity wasted no time in taking advantage.
We domesticated rice, wheat, teff, maize, sorghum on different continents roughly at the same time. And off we go in the civilizational journey as we know it.
This is the interglacial stage that has enabled us to develop modern civilizations as we know. The Holocene is the only state of the planet we know for certain can support the modern world as we know it.
Since the dawn of civilization, we have depended on this stable state of the planet. A planet with 2 permanent ice caps, flowing rivers, a cloak of forests, reliable weather, and an abundance of life. Throughout the Holocene, this stable planet has given us food to eat, water to drink, and clean air to breathe. But we have just left the Holocene behind. Our population boomed, as did our demands. Every time a new problem arose, we solved it, altering Earth's entire surface in the process. And now we have changed the world so profoundly, scientists have decided that Earth has entered a new phase of its existence. Welcome to the Anthropocene, the age of humans. The tables have turned. We now determine nature's survival. The planet is ours.
General tendency of the universe is to move from order and structure to lack of order, lack of structure, in fact to mush.
The Holocene has ended. The Garden of Eden is no more. The only conditions modern humans have ever known so far are changing, and changing fast.
10,000 years ago, exploiting a sudden change in global climate with the end of the last ice age, humans learned to farm. Farming was an energy bonanza, and exploiting that energy, human populations multiplied, human societies got larger, denser, more interconnected. And in the last 200 years, something else has happened. We've stumbled on another energy bonanza in fossil fuels.
The real problem of humanity is that we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology.
There's just one problem. We're now totally out of balance with nature.
Since the advent of the Industrial Revolution,
we have burned over 1.4 trillion tons of carbon into the atmosphere.
In 2019, the United Nations asked over 500 scientists to investigate the current state of the natural world. Studies suggest that extinction is now happening 100 times faster than the natural evolutionary rate, and it's accelerating.
One can see from space how the human race has changed the Earth. Nearly all the available land has been cleared of forest and is now used for agriculture or urban development. The polar ice caps are shrinking and the desert areas are increasing. At night, the Earth is no longer dark, but large areas are lit up. All this is evidence that human exploitation of the planet is reaching a critical limit, but human demands and expectations are ever increasing. As technology advances and our society becomes more complex, we have the capacity to destroy ourselves in more and more ways. Nuclear war and climate change are obvious examples, but there will be others we haven't even thought of yet. We live in an increasingly dangerous world, and however careful we are, it is likely that disaster will strike at some time in the future.
One species, from ignorance, is destroying the whole system. We are basically compromising the very web of life that sustains us, without which we would not have a chance.
So the question is, how is it possible that the most intellectual creature that's ever walked on planet Earth is destroying its only home?
What we've done to the rest of the world is it's criminal.
Much of the Arctic ice is gone. Most of our wild animals have gone. Much of our soil has gone.
But when we begin to look at what's happening to the biological organisms in response to the warming trends, they are already on the move. They're moving towards the poles to get cooler. They're moving from the lower mountains up in elevation, meaning their ranges are moving.
Nature is coming as a free good. We use rivers and estuaries as sinks for the pollution we create from industry.
We're destroying Mother Earth so fast.
President Abraham Lincoln was also thinking of bold action 150 years ago when he said, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present, as our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country." As a UN messenger of peace, I have traveled all over the world for the last 2 years documenting how this crisis is changing the natural balance of our planet. I have seen cities like Beijing choked by industrial pollution, ancient boreal forests in Canada that have been clear-cut, and rainforests in Indonesia that have been incinerated. In India, I met farmers whose crops have been literally washed away by historic flooding. In America, I have witnessed unprecedented droughts in California and sea level rise flooding the streets of Miami. In Greenland and in the Arctic, I was astonished to see that ancient glaciers are rapidly disappearing, well ahead of scientific predictions. All that I have seen and learned on my journey has absolutely terrified me. There is no doubt in the world scientific community that this is a direct result of human activity and the effects of climate change will become astronomically worse in the future. But after 21 years of debates and conferences, it is time to declare no more talk, no more excuses, no more 10-year studies, no more allowing the fossil fuel companies to manipulate and dictate the science and policies that affect our future.
about 3% of scientists that believe in the best case, about 97% that believe in the worst case.
Nothing stays in place long on our restless Earth. They're all largely driven by powerful geologic forces inside our planet. When those forces are unleashed, you get volcanoes and earthquakes. It's why the Ring of Fire exists. It's why Mother Earth, in all her transformational glory, is beautiful but deadly. The femme fatale of our solar system. 6 major earthquakes in one day. And they're not something you want to sit and binge watch. When we think of volcanic eruptions, we tend to focus on the fireworks. But there are other invisible dangers as well. Magma releases carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide. Any one of those can kill you. No preparations were ever conceived for such a global catastrophe. The whole Earth seems poised to burst into a set of superstorms. Millions of residents are threatened by sledgehammer winds and massive storm surges that will drown entire neighborhoods in minutes. Many victims won't be able to escape.
There's considerable disagreement about the ultimate impact of climate change and economic growth, but some estimates suggest that unmitigated warming could reduce global GDP by 20% or 30% by the end of the century. 30% is an impact that is twice as deep as the Great Depression.
The economic losses are in the trillions. We're talking about instant mass unemployment, riots, neighbor against neighbor, desperate people searching desperately for something to eat and water to drink.
Any extremist philosophy could appeal to people if they have nowhere to live, no way to live, and that's when people are vulnerable.
There's a relationship between temperature and violence, which means, according to some analysis, by the end of the century we could be seeing twice as much war as a result of climate change. And that relationship doesn't just impact violence at the state level, it also impacts violence at the individual level, so we would expect to see rates of rape and murder and domestic assault rise as well.
31% of all emerging diseases have originated through the process of land use change. We estimate there are going to be 5 new emerging diseases affecting people every year. We cannot live with that and the rate at which they're increasing and crashing our economies if we have one of these every decade.
You have huge fights over water, which could erupt into wars.
It's a Mad Max future that we're facing.
At 3-4 degrees, we will have heat waves which make many regions in the world not livable any longer.
A huge portion of the world's population lives near oceans. If they start moving, then you start seeing scarce resources the subject to competition between populations.
Agriculture will be collapsing around the equator.
This is the reason why the Pentagon has said this is a national security issue. This isn't just an environmental issue.
Well, to begin with, it's been estimated that as many as 150 million additional people would die of air pollution at 2 degrees compared to 1.5. 150 million. That's death at the scale of 25 holocausts. Just one reason the UN believes we may also see 200 million climate refugees by 2050, perhaps more. Make extreme weather much more intense, fan the flames of wildfire, rupture old infrastructure, and destabilize national and local governments as well. We'll be overwhelmed by the challenges that impacts pose.
Power grids are failing. The world is plunging into a new, really dark age. Power surges are following the wires from building to building, from neighborhood to neighborhood, and then city to city. Overloaded electrical equipment is triggering explosions in factories and chemical plants. Toxic fumes waft through the streets. Oh yeah, traffic lights are out, train signals are down, ships can't find their ports, can't even make radio contact. And get this, air traffic control is down. 21,000 pilots around the world flying blind.
The world is a hot mess. Gas stations aren't operating. Electric cars still run until they drain their batteries. Before long, we'll be back to the horse and buggy, unless people start eating the horses first. Even in normal times, falling power lines start hundreds of wildfires a year. Right now, we've got about 100 times that many burning everywhere all the time. And the story's the same. In forests, homes, factories, it's all going up in flames. And there are no firefighters to spare. And there's no dispatch system to direct them anyway. The economy as we knew it vanishes. Wall Street is just a street. Jeff Bezos is just a bald guy with a cool house. Cash is trash. Cryptocurrency blinks out of existence, and people are scrambling for things that have real value, like water, backup generators, and batteries. No electricity, no water. Very few of us still carry a bucket to a well to draw water. Modern plumbing and sanitation systems depend on electricity. No electricity, no food. Almost everyone around the world depends on refrigeration and complex supply chains to eat. Without those things, our planet couldn't sustain 8 billion people. No electricity, no information age. Do you want to Google that? You can't. Books become one of the world's most precious commodities, and places like these, libraries, will once again become the sole repositories of human knowledge. Unfortunately, most of the books in that library won't be read. They'll be burned. Not for censorship, but for warmth.